great fall recipe here. Such a cool way to preserve pears. Kind of an underused fall fruit. I love pears. And this is pear molasses. It's basically a really thick caramelized pear syrup. And I'm going to show you how to make two different consistencies here. The first one that I suggest you make is basically the same thing as my apple molasses recipe, and we're just reducing the liquid down until it's a caramelized syrup, which is on the right. Then there's a thinner syrup that you can make for drinks and stuff on the left, but you can use both in drinks, technically. And what we do, this is the same thing as apple molasses. So we're just going to bring that liquid up to a simmer. And we're going to bring this up to a rolling boil. You can see I put a spice bouquet in there. That is totally optional. And I'm kind of skimming some of the impurities that'll come up there. You do not have to skim this. It's going to be totally fine. You don't have to add a spice bouquet. You can just cook pear syrup until it looks like what I'm going to show you. Halfway through, I'm going to remove the spice bouquet. And this is basically the consistency of the lighter syrup. And I saw this, basically there's one mention of it being used to add to pig feed. And if they were going to do that, they'd probably use the light syrup. The light syrup is okay for drinks. It's going to be sweeter. And you're going to notice the spice bouquet a lot more because there's a little bit more water in it. I don't know exactly why that is, but that is definitely the case. So you can just jar that up. You're going to get about 2 cups there. And you can see after it chills, it's going to have a looser consistency than the molasses, which is much more like really like thick maple syrup or honey. And for the molasses stage here, now we're just taking that syrup and we're just cooking it down until the color changes a little bit. It gets this dark, kind of brownish mahogany. Oh, it's just gorgeous. Look at that caramelized syrup. The syrup starts to caramelize. And when you can see the pan through the syrup, when you drag a spoon through it, you know that it's ready. And I'm showing you this here so that you can see I'm bringing the syrup to a rolling boil. It's hard to show it at a rolling boil with my overhead cam on this little tiny burner with a 10-inch pan. But this is what you're looking for. You have a little bit of wiggle room here because if you take out too much water, it might get really, really stiff. You can always add a little bit of water and microwave it or something to bring it back to the original consistency. And you can store this just on the counter. With apple molasses, people have found jars that are like hundreds of years old in their houses in New England and on the East Coast. And that's what it's going to look like when it's warm. And that's what it's going to look like after it's chilled. Super thick. Like I said, this is at room temperature too. So if you want a little more drizzleable, you can just warm it up with a splash of water. So many cool things that you can do with this. So just like apple molasses, you can use it as a substitute for maple syrup. I just made granola with it. Desserts, in baking, put it on ice cream is fantastic. But you could also use it savory, like with roast chicken or pork, salad dressings, or as an all-purpose substitute for pomegranate molasses, because it's going to be nice and tart. I also like to add a little splash of apple cider vinegar to mine, and I don't with apple molasses because it's already so tart. Look at that little roasted pear and some vanilla ice cream. Super good. And another thing I made is just like maple syrup, so I might have it for breakfast. This is kind of just a little breakfast bowl. There's some whipped maple and American persimmon spread. I love the texture of that, so thick and creamy. Some of my homemade granola, and then some fruit, and just drizzle that pear molasses on there. Delicious. Just a quick breakdown of how you can make an all-natural sweetener and a really thick, delicious syrup from pear juice. The full recipe is on my website. There's a link at the top of the video description for that. Thanks for watching.